everyone. Welcome to class number 2 of day number 2 of our virtual open house. Today, I'm very excited. We have the beautiful people from Neenah Paper, Charlie and Anne. So hello, everyone. Anne is having a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's okay. We can see her beautiful face. So it's going to be good. So yeah. So we're going to be talking about heat transfer myths and realities. So with that, Charlie, I'm just going to let you just take it away.
Sprite, thank you so much. And welcome everybody to our seminar by Neenah Coldenhove entitled Myths and Realities. And Sprite, if you could bring our slideshow up, we'll get started. Great. So we're going to talk a little bit about a few myths and realities. And the reason that we want to do this is that in the world of heat transfer, in the world of garment decoration, there's often a lot of myth and hearsay, and I've heard, and what we want to try to do as a paper manufacturer of heat transfer paper is trying to give you more information that is reality, that'll help you become a better garment decorator and help you with the choices of what to use to decorate your garments. So you have two moderators today, myself and Ann Sierakowski. I'm Charlie Myers. I've been with Neenah Coldenhove for 28 years, but I've had 19 years working with our heat transfer and dye sublimation papers. I live in about an hour east of Nashville, Tennessee, and I have a degree in chemistry, which really helps with this process. And I'm really pleased to introduce and let her talk a little bit about herself, our product manager for heat transfer, Ann Sierakowski. Ann, take it away. Or she might be still having some audio problems. So,
well, I just saw where she unmuted there for a second, but maybe now.
Let's try again. There she is. No.
Nope.
Okay. Well, Ann, I'll introduce you, and Ann's going to be in the background moderating for us, and maybe as she can get through her technical gremlins, that we'll have her speaking. But Ann, really excited to have Ann on our team. She joined our team in 2021, coming from Canon Solutions America. So she spent 15 years in product management, account management, marketing with Canon on their wide format. But we really were looking for someone in product management for our heat transfer papers that had digital printing experience. And we're really pleased to have Ann. Ann is one of those people that not only has that digital printing experience, we also look for people with technical backgrounds in education. And she has not only an MBA, but has a master's degree in biology. So she's got the ability to work with our scientists as well as work with you in the field. And she's based in the Chicago area. So really pleased to have Ann on the team. And she's here she's here live, I promise, somewhere in the digital realm, but she's with us in spirit also. And you'll have a lot of fun getting to meet her over time. So what should you expect out of this seminar? Well, we really want to, again, give you the facts to help you separate the myths from reality in garment decoration in regards to heat transfer paper. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the other ways that you can decorate a garment. And just real quickly to go over what those would be. They can be heat transfer paper like what we make, and we'll talk about that here in a second. And that's for inkjet or laser papers or laser printers. You can go the traditional screen printing route, which requires quite a bit of technical and equipment costs. You can also use a direct-to-garment or direct-to-film printer and go that route, which again has a higher upfront cost. You can use vinyl. So again, that's another option. They're all good. We're not here to bash any one, but we're here to talk about the one that's near and dear to our heart, and that is heat transfer paper. So we're going to have a couple questions throughout our presentation today. And the first one is, so we kind of get a feel for the audience, and also for you guys, we'll put the answers up on the screen and let you know what they are. How long have you been producing heat transfer products? And that could be by any method. Have you been doing it less than a year, 1 to 5 years, 5 to 10 or more than 10. So we look forward to, you can go ahead and put your input in, and we'll kind of tally everything up and give you a result here in a couple of minutes. First off, let's talk about heat transfer. And when we talk about heat transfer, we're talking about desktop digital printing. And that can either be a inkjet printer that you can buy at your local Best Buy or Office Depot or online. And that can be a printer and that's made by all the major brands. That can be a printer that can either use dye or pigment inks, doesn't matter with our papers. Or it can be a laser printer. And that laser printer, it can be a desktop size. So, for 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. So that's the majority of what this is for. So think of the desktop. You can also use a color copier or a digital printer. But when you get to that level, you've got a machine that's way over qualified for what's needed here, and you're going to lose the most important part of what that could do, and that's speed, because with a laser printer for these products, you have to slow the feed down to allow the toner to fuse correctly to the paper. So with heat transfer paper, it's a low cost of entry that still leaves plenty of room for profit. I always say that this is something that you can get into for under $1,500 and really probably for under $1,000. It's the starting point for most people when they start their garment decoration journey. Wherever you end up, you can end up doing a multi-million-dollar business, but you're probably going to start here. And the beauty of it is you can do it at home, in a spare room, in a garage, in a basement. You can do a variety of things with that. So it really is, quite a thing. So it's really interesting to see that. When you also talk about, it gives you the freedom for sophistication to give a clean, crisp image. You can use vector graphics. You can use that sort of thing. So it really does give you that opportunity to do that. It allows you for a lot of customization. You can do things for sports teams, family events. Heat transfer is typically for 1 to 25 garments. And the reason we say that, if you spend time pressing 25 or more garments for a job, then you're really going to see that that's a lot of work. And at that point, you probably can go to some of those other systems that I talked about, because they're going to be more efficient in longer runs. So it really is some of the things that are there that really make it an opportunity that, it's easy to get into. It's very user friendly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Some of the things this is all about making memories last, and you should think about that, because we all wear T-shirts, and they're typically for events, or they have some sort of slogan or logo on there that we're happy to proudly wear and show people. So it's a wearable memory. And if you think about that with your business, it's a good place to start. You're not just handing somebody a T-shirt with a logo on it or with whatever they wanted. You're really giving them a memory. And a lot of things that we're going to talk about today is about making those memories last longer. In other words, what's the durability? That's probably the number one question we get. How many washes can I get? And there's some things that are going to be in your control, and there's some things that are not going to be in control. So we'll talk about those as we go along. And, some of those things, once you hand that shirt to your customer, even though you can tell them things about washing and wearing and drying, you never know if they're going to do it or not, but at least you can try. And if they're repeat customers, then over time you can help them really learn it. And we're here to help you start that journey today, to help you learn what are the best things you can do to make sure that shirt's going to last a long time. Obviously, we have a great suite of products that are available through Condi. On the inkjet side, we have products for light fabrics, products for dark fabrics. And then on the laser, the same. We have them for light and dark fabrics. So you've got a nice suite of products there that really will help you, give you the guidance that you need. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But that's just a little bit about the opportunity of heat transfer. Okay, So yeah, yeah,
Real
go ahead.
quick, can it be dry cleaned?
No, good question. It can't, because if you think about it, you're applying a poly. Even though inkjet is an ink, laser is a toner, which is plastic. We're using polymers to attach that to the shirt, and so you can't hand iron it. And then with dry cleaning, what happens is obviously they're using solvents, and those solvents are designed to lift things away from fabric. And you've attached these polymers to the fabric by heat, but that chemical solvent in the dry cleaning is going to take it off. So unfortunately not. You may get away with it one time, but over time, it would take it off. Okay. Very good. All right, so let's talk about some myths versus realities when it comes to heat transfer. One of the ones we hear a lot is inkjet's better than laser. And that is, well, I can do everything I can do with an inkjet printer that I could do with a laser printer. My equipment cost is lower because, an 8.5 by 11 inkjet printer can be very inexpensive. They typically go on sale for less than $50. What that will do, though, is it's going to limit your size. You can only go 8.5 by 11 or 8.5 by 14. But even an 11 by 17 or 13 by 19 inkjet printer is under $500. It's a softer hand. Just as I was mentioning when I was talking about the dry cleaning, you're putting a liquid on our paper. Once it's in the paper, it's micro encapsulated, so it's captured. But it's a very soft hand. In other words, it feels really nice. You don't need any RIP software. It's true. You just use your standard printing settings. In fact, you don't even want to use probably the photographic setting. You don't want to put a lot of ink on there because it's just not needed. You can almost use the standard printing setting to start, and then depending on your image and your color selection, you can dial it up or down from there. Also, you can use either dye or pigment inks. And what's the advantage of one over the other? Well, dye is brighter, but they're typically less expensive, but they're going to fade quicker. Pigments aren't quite as bright, but they're going to last longer. Majority of people that use our products with inkjet go with things like the Epson Durabright ink, which is a sort of a blend, but a combination, but they go more to the pigment side just because it's going to last a little bit longer. So is this a myth or is this a reality? Well, it's a myth. And the reason is that laser printers can print at higher speeds. I think we've all sat in front of an inkjet printer, and especially, it just takes time to print one sheet at a time, 2 sheets at a time. The laser printers that are designed for heat transfer especially, they crank out fairly quickly. So you can do quite a few more prints faster. And at the end of the day, time is money. So also, too, the laser printers right now have the ability to print self-weeding transfers. So in other words, what that does is it only prints the image and not the box around it. So you have to do less or almost no trimming. Now, that may change in the future. We're working on some things for the inkjet market that are self-weeding, and we hope to have those out this fall, and it looks really good that we will. So stay tuned, especially around the big printing show of Printing United in Las Vegas in October. We think we're going to have something ready to show you. But even so, the self-weeding laser printer papers have been around. We had the first patented product back in 2005 with Image Clip Laser Light. And what that really does is it not only self-weeds, it improves the hand because you're not just printing a whole big square. And laser printers have a lower long-term cost of operation because you can get thousands of transfers out of a toner cartridge. So we all know inkjet cartridges, or even some of the new Echo Tank type printers, they still use a lot of ink, and inks can be challengingly expensive, especially if you're using the OEM, but which we recommend. It's still overall, laser printer will give you that lower cost, and it's really a simple operation. The nice thing about a laser printer is you can turn it off, go on vacation for a couple weeks, come back in, turn it on, and it's not going to give you a problem. Not that an inkjet printer won't, but they are constantly self-monitoring and doing a little bit of head cleaning and printing to themselves. They've got each manufacturer's got a way that they deal with that. So it is a maintained thing that you don't really have to think about too much, but there's stuff going on in the background of that printer constantly. Whereas the laser printer, you turn it on, you turn it off. So you really can do everything with a laser printer that you can do with an inkjet printer. It comes down to what's best for your particular business and operation. So with that, I often say if you start with one, you're going to get the other, and you probably will, because sometimes you're just going to need that really super soft hand of an inkjet printer. Sometimes you're going to need the speed of a laser. Sometimes you're going to need self-weeding. Sometimes you're not. So I think you're going to find out, when all that's going to occur. But probably over time, you're going to get both. So that's our first myth versus reality. And we talked just a little bit about dyes versus pigment versus toner. A little bit, earlier, that dyes are known for their color vibrancy. They're water-based, and it's easier to wash off. So again, that's the one thing. The pigments are particle-based, and they're a little bit harder to wash off. And so those are the differences. Like I said, everything we see, and not only here in the U.S., because we sell our products around the world. We sell just about as many products to Asia and into other parts of the world as we do here in the U.S. In terms of our heat transfer papers. So it's just not U.S. customers that are skewing towards pigment. It's really the market's decided that's really the better way to go. But if you need something for a one-time shirt that really needs to pop, invest in some dye cartridges. And then toners we talked about. It really is, it's an easier thing to use. Just remember what toner is crushed plastic and plastic particles. So you are going to get, you are putting plastic on the shirt. And if you have a big image and you're not trimming it or weeding it, it is going to have a very heavy hand. Now, sometimes people want that, but it really is a little bit different. But that's the differences between pigments, dyes, and toners. Okay, we're going to have the next question here in a minute. And what we'd like to know now is, what is the average number of shirts that you decorate for your customers using inkjet or laser papers? And we talked a little earlier about what our research has shown, but when you're doing it, what are you doing? 1 to 10, doing 10 to 25, or are you doing 25 or more? And we'll look at the results of the poll here in a few minutes. But it'd be interesting to see. I think you're going to see, for most people, it's that under 25 number, but we've been surprised before. Okay. All right. And still having technical difficulties, but we'll keep going. Then also, our second myth we're going to talk about today is the durability of inkjet and laser. And they're both fused by heat to the fabric. That are they the same? And is the durability of inkjet and the durability of laser about the same? Some people might say, laser's going to last longer. Some people might say inkjet's going to last longer. But they're both really fused to by heat to fabric. That came up earlier when Sprite asked, can they be dry cleaned? So really what you're doing is you're fusing a polymer-based coating with your decoration, with your image, to fabric. And there's a lot of things that come into play on durability. Not only just the wear, and wear obviously depends on whether it's an active product that you're going to be working out in or doing an event in, where you're going to be stretching and moving and sweating all over it. But also then too, and that obviously human sweat is acidic, and that has some effect, but not only on the fabric, but on the transfer. Then you start to talk about water temperature, detergent, and drying. Those are the things that really affect durability. Also, fabric choice can affect it. So we're going to talk about that once we figure out, is this a myth or is this reality? So it is a reality. The thing about this is that the two are basically about the same in terms of durability. I've had people come to me and say, I've had a shirt using our product for Inkjet Light Jet Pro Soft Stretch where I've gotten 30, 40 washes on the shirt. The shirt's falling apart. The transfer still looks great. And I've had people that have said, well, I thought laser was going to be more, but my customers, they're using it for such and such, and they're not, they're getting 15 to 20 washes. Well, they're still getting good washability, but basically they're about the same. So the real key for you as a garment decorator is to get a high quality heat press and to try to help your customers wash with care, and it will last the life of the shirt. So they are the same. So when people say, well, I heard inkjet's a little bit better than laser, or laser's a little bit better than inkjet for durability, in all our in our testing and findings, in our laboratories where we develop these products, it's about the same if you take care of it correctly. So let's talk a little bit about that. What washing is the first step to ensuring good durability. And the first thing you can do as a garment decorator, and sometimes we know there's last minute emergencies and you've got to decorate something and get it to a customer. And then hopefully they're going to wear it and it's still going to be it needs to cure at least 24 hours after it's been heat pressed, before you wash it. And usually that's not going to be a problem. By the time you decorate it and either you ship it off or a customer comes to pick it up, it's going to be at least 24 hours since you made the shirt or made the decoration. The reason for that is to allow the fabric to come back to a normal state because it's been heated at higher heat than it'll ever be dried. And it just it gives it time to cure also for the actual coating. So that's the most important and first thing. And then obviously, Sprite, it came up earlier, and there it is. Do not dry clean. It's just not going to work. That's a solvent. Speaking of solvents, though, the most universal solvent in the world is water. Water's a solvent. Think about it. We wash things off with water first. I mean, you may end up going to alcohol or to something like a paint thinner or even an acid to solve things and get solvents. But the solvent that we all use first is water. So the first thing you're doing to attack that durability is you're going to put it in a washing machine with water. So you just remember that you're always it's a losing battle over time, but you are starting with a solvent, and that's water. So what we recommend is, if you can, hand wash is best, especially if it's something that is going to be used one or two times and you really want to keep the vibrancy there. But make sure that the garment is washed inside out. Protect that. You need to protect that image and your decoration, or have your customers do it. So wash them inside out. Again, if there's been a spot stain or something, you can address that on the fabric itself, not on the transfer, but on the fabric itself. You can address that, pre-wash. But wash them inside out. Use your cold water setting. No need to go warm or hot. Again, heat is the enemy of transfers. So whether that be body heat, outside ambient temperature heat, water temperature, or drying temperature, all those things, heat is not your friend. So use the cold water setting. Again, in today's high-tech detergents, whether they're for HE or special detergents, I've worked out a lot over the years, and I'm paying for it. If you guys see, I just had shoulder repair surgery 3 weeks ago today, rotator cuff surgery. That's from 40 years of being a weekend warrior. But, there are special detergents now that are out there for activewear, and they're all for cold water use. So, but use a mild detergent. Obviously don't use bleach. You can't do that either. So those are the things that you want to do about washing. So if you can follow those tips, the main one being use cold water, inside out, mild detergent.
Charlie, do you recommend pre-washing the shirts before you press them?
Good question. You can, yes. What that's going to do when the garment, when the garment is made, the t-shirt fabric is made, there's often a light wax coating on there, on the fabric to protect it. And it is a water soluble wax, so that if you can get that off pre-hand, you're going to have a better opportunity to get the polymer right on it. It will still work, but it is preferred to do that but some of the manufacturers do or don't have that coating on there. So it's best to check with whoever you're buying your blanks from, your t-shirts, and see if the particular t-shirt you're going does have that wax coating on there. If they do, it'd be good to pre-wash it. But it's not going to cause it to fall off the shirt if you don't. Good question. Okay. So we've talked about water quality, temperature, and detergents in terms of making sure that reality stays, that inkjet and laser are going to be the same. Then the next most important part is drying. Just like the most important thing you can probably do on the wash side is use cold water, the most important thing you can do on the drying side is don't use a dryer. Heat's your enemy. If it's best to line dry. Now, to get the wrinkles out a little bit, especially on 100% cotton, you can throw it into the dryer for just a couple of minutes. Just remember, though, that polymer, your decoration, is going to start to get soft and can stick to itself. So don't put it in there long, and it's just better to line dry if you can. And that will allow the shirt to come back to its natural, the fibers to come back to their natural state a lot more slowly and correctly. And it's going to, again, give you a better lasting transfer, because underneath that transfer where it's attached, if those, and the fibers are obviously, unless it's 100% polyester, but even they're in a weave, they're going to continue to expand and contract, and that's also breaking down that adhesion point of the polymer to the transfer. So there you go. So also dry the garments inside out if you have to, as we just mentioned. If you do have to do it, tumble dry, low setting, air, and then air dry outside. Some people say, can I just tumble it to help get rid of, and not have any heat? That's fine. You just remember, any kind of agitation, both mechanical and with that could cause some damage over the time. Another big one that's come up over the years is, do not use fabric softener. Fabric softener tends to get into the fibers and then begins to work away that adhesion point of your transfer to the shirt. So don't use them. It's just, that's one of the no-nos. It will probably be okay if this shirt's only going to be washed a few times and worn a few times, but for a longer lasting transfer, don't use fabric softener. And then, as we've said earlier, don't iron directly on it. It's just going to melt it and cause a mess. So if you do want to spot iron, just stay away from the actual transfer area. And if you need to, fix the collar a little bit, or the sleeves or the back with an iron, that's okay. Just don't touch the transfer. So again, the biggest thing with washing and drying is cold water wash and then air dry. And you're going to get what we see in our laboratory testing. And what we do, we do a very harsh wash stress test. So what we do is we wash in warm to hot water, and then we put it in the dryer for full dry. And so we're usually getting 15 to 20 washes before we see significant cracking and bursting of the transfer. So if we would do it correctly, we do a lot better, but we're trying to stress it out. The other thing that we do and that you wouldn't do is we're washing the shirts by themselves. We're actually just cutting transfer out, the transfers out, and not even washing some of the others. But it continues to be, so we're doing everything we can wrong, and we're still getting good results. So if you'll do the right things, you'll even go better. We just had a question. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
One about dryer sheets, and then the other is about scent boosters. Can you use those?
Let's go to dryer sheets first. That's again it's a form of fabric softener. Anything like that's going to try to get into the fabric and get in between your transfer and the fabric is probably not good. So you can use them, and it's probably not going to affect washes 1 to 5 and dries 1 to 5, but 5 to 10, 10 to 20, that's where you're going to start to see it. So we would say no. It's not recommended. It's going to affect the long-term durability and washability of the shirt. but it's probably not going to cause the shirt to come off in the first wash. Depending on how much fabric softener you use, that could, but the dryer sheet's there. And then as far as the scents, those are okay. That's just a scent. That's not a solvent itself. That's really more of an oil. And you could do that if you wanted to.
And
Go ahead.
can you send me this PowerPoint so that I can upload it into the session?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
We'll do that as soon as we're done.
Awesome.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about this becoming a reality and how you can help it to become a reality. So this applies to whether it's inkjet or laser. And now let's just talk a little bit about those fabrics, because people often ask, what's the best fabric to help this durability happen? And our products can be transferred when you're doing it to shirts, to cottons, to blends, and to 100% polyester. So what's the difference? What's best? Well, again, it depends on what you're doing. Cotton has had an incredible run in the United States for the past 40 years, thanks to the Cotton Council making people think that cotton is softer, and cotton is soft. I'm not trying to bash cotton here, but it is soft and breathable, and that it is. And up into a couple of years ago, polyester had a really bad reputation as being itchy and not breathable. And we'll talk about that. That's been addressed, and actually the polyester or blended shirts have blown by cotton. But the other thing about cotton, it's the least expensive. And for your customer, they're probably, unless they've really done this in the past and understand a little bit about garment, about fiber technology, they're going to think, ooh, 100% cotton shirt, I got the best there is. So it really is still the most commonly used in the in the garment industry. Its resilience is there. It can handle a variety of temperatures. It's really designed for that. It also uses our highest transfer temperature, but it also gives great washability that way, because you've got one fabric in there. So cotton's always a great choice. You're never going to go wrong with it. The one place that you will see it will not probably be the best is if this is going to be used for some sort of athletic or active situation, because cotton doesn't wick after a certain point. It's great for casual wear, but as we all know, once cotton gets wet, it's just a big wet mess that's hanging on you. The most popular today is a blend, and whether that's a 50-50 blend of polyester fibers or 60-40 or something where there's a little bit of lycra in there to give it some stretch. And you can't really transfer to lycra, but it's in such a small amount, usually under 3% or 5% at the most in a shirt. That lycra is going to help the shirt stretch and have a nice drape on the body. So it's kind of the middle of the road. It's probably a little bit more expensive than 100% cotton, but it's going to increase your durability over time because it is a blend of those fabrics, and it's also going to give you that a little bit lighter weight, and especially if it's going to be used for an active wear situation. And then also too, it's going to give you better breathability. So it still has that wonderful soft feeling of cotton, and but yet it's got the benefits of polyester. What the differences are, and we'll talk about in a minute, is our transfer temperatures, and we have those on our instruction sheets, as Condi does also, so that you can have this on there as far as what the transfer temperatures are. The third that we talk about to help make this a reality is polyester. And again, I would say even 20 years ago, it started to you begin to see performance polyester start to make its way in on high-end shirts. I was a runner, back then a Nike or it was actually even some of the Japanese manufacturers were starting to come up with some really interesting moisture wicking polyester. Before that, it was just straight up woven fabric, but now that's common as every day. So it's really a performance fabric because it does wick away moisture. It is the lightest, and it can also last the longest because, with cotton, it's being a cellulosic fiber like paper. It's constantly kind of unraveling from itself. It's been put together in a weaving situation, and if you know how cotton has been harvested and then made into a fabric, it's been man-made or it's been pushed together, and it's going to constantly try to push itself apart. Where polyester, it's not going to have that issue because it's already a petroleum-based fiber. It really is becoming the fastest growing area. It's easy to wash. It dries fast, so you don't really have to dry polyester at all, and it's not going to wrinkle. It's going to keep its shape. It's really going to be great for performance wear. The only downside is it's the most expensive option. It's still, because of all this technology that's in that fiber. And I think the other thing to remember for today is now they've gotten where the manufacturers of polyester garments have gotten to the point where they've learned to sort of rough up those fibers a bit to give them that feel of cotton. I've got some shirts that are just normal t-shirts that are 100% polyester, and you really have to, they feel as soft as any cotton shirt I've ever had. Now, granted, they're going to be a couple of dollars more per shirt, but they're going to give you that advantage. The big thing with transfers, for heat transfer, whether it's for laser or for inkjet, when you're going into a blend or a polyester, is you're going to lower the temperature of the transfer. And there's two reasons for this. Polyester has a melt point well above 400 degrees Fahrenheit. But what happens is there's dyes, those polyesters are dyed. And I know a lot of folks here are also here to talk about dye sublimation. And what actually occurs if you get it close to that 400 degree level, which if you know anything about dye sublimation, that's where the inks start to turn into a gas and sublimate. Same thing happens here. And the most famous example, and we get this happening unfortunately every year, is that somebody's doing Little League or Pee Wee League shirts for baseball or whatever, and they're on a black or blue polyester garment, and they're putting white letters on it. And we'll get a call going, oh my God, my letters are turning gray, or they're turning blue, or they're turning black. What's wrong? Well, what temperature are you using? 375. What are you doing on 100% polyester? Okay, you need to lower the temperature. And we have those temperatures in. You need to get it down to 325 or lower. So you're still going to get good adhesion, but you're going to prevent that dye sublimating out of the fabric dye itself and going into the transfer, especially if it's white, and then discoloring that. Not much you can do at that point. It's a ruined shirt, but that's the difference between the three. That we don't want you to go particularly longer, but we want you to lower the temperature as you have more synthetic fibers in there. So if you follow those tips, then that myth becomes a reality. You can do inkjet or laser, and it's going to have a great durability. Your customers aren't going to come back and say, this fell off the shirt, or I didn't really, it crumbled up. And if it did, you can probably point back to that they probably are washing it incorrectly, or they're doing something on that end. So that's how the fabrics stack up. That's how you make that myth not a reality. So I wanted to make sure we had time for more questions, and I see one down here below, but I wanted also kind of our last poll for you guys is was this interesting? Hopefully it was, but is it really something more than interesting? Is it something that's going to help you become a better garment decorator? Or if you're just getting started, does this help you, guide you in a direction to get started in terms of equipment and what I need and where I need to start? So we'd love to hear that so that we can make better presentations for the future. I see down here below a question. I have problems with light transfer paper sticking and not applying correctly, so I use dark transfer paper on light colored shirts. Are there any tips to prevent this? Well, what may be happening is sometimes your even though your heat press may say one thing, you may not have enough heat or pressure. I always start with those two things: heat and temperature and pressure. So if you're doing this on cotton and you are, you're transferring at 375 and it's still not sticking correctly, you can go up to about go up by in 5-degree increments and use an old test t-shirt or cut a t-shirt up and use part of this to kind of dial it in. Go to 380, go to 385. If you get up to 390 or so, especially on a light shirt, you're going to probably start scorching the fabric. But try to do that first, or try staying at 375 or going down 10 degrees then and going longer. So try some of those things first. What you're doing, you're getting it there, but it's a little bit thicker and it's a little more expensive to use the opaques to do that. But that's what I would do is, and then also too, if your fabric's consistent, and I'm assuming it is, different fabrics can have different temperatures, but if it's not applying correctly, time, temperature, pressure, you can also adjust your pressure a little bit. I don't think that's the case here. It sounds more like this is either a temperature or dwell time. So you've got 3 levers you can pull there, figuratively, with your heat press: time, temperature, pressure. And I think the one to really start with, though, is temperature, because you may be getting some variability from what the actual platen temperature is versus what is being shown on the screen of your heat press. So try that first. And if you keep having problems, please feel free to reach out to Condi with some photos, and Ann and I can get involved. And if we need to, we'll get our scientists. We'll do all we can to help you. So we're always available to help with stuff like this. Another question is, will you be discussing anything about white toner transfers? Such, does it hurt to use the 2-step paper on lighter garments? Excuse me. It just seems the color more vivid than the 1-step. Well, they are. And good point. We do make a set of the 2-step papers, Image Clip Laser Light and Image Clip Laser Dark. And actually what you're mentioning here is very true. And when people go, well, I just like the pop of that 2-step dark transfer. And why is that? Because there is an opaque layer it's got titanium dioxide in it, whether it's our brand or somebody else's. And that allows the colors to sit up on there a little bit higher. So it doesn't hurt. It's usually just more expensive, because those papers are more expensive because of the additional titanium dioxide and additional chemistry that's in the coatings. But that's why they're more vivid. So anytime you put white behind something and then you're putting colors on top of it, it's going to pop. And that's true even, so if you do want to, if you need a really bright and vivid image is needed on a light shirt, you can use our 3G Jet Opaque, or you can use our Laser 1 Opaque. You're just going to have to trim around the edges of the image, but you're going to get a much brighter and vivid image because you're putting white behind it. Okay.
So I have a couple of questions in the chat. Sure. Do you have problems with dye migration when using blend or polyester shirts?
We talked about that a little bit earlier, and the answer is it can be if you're transferring at the temperature of cotton, which is 375 Fahrenheit. Go down to 350 for a blend or lower. Go down to 325 or lower for polyester. It's hard to get. That's a starting point. It depends on the manufacturer. Sometimes if they're using really cheap dyes and you're getting that migration or bloom, you may have to go lower. And then we might say you might need to go a little bit longer. Higher quality, and you never know. You maybe have been buying a brand of shirt to transfer to for years, and it's been fine. And all of a sudden they make a change on their end, and you start having problems. But there's the key. If you've got synthetic fiber in there, lower the temperature of the transfer, and that should, and most often always does, mitigate that blooming and dye migration.
And so David is looking into getting into color laser transfers, but he would like to know what printer brand or model of color laser printer would work the best.
Always a good question. And what I would go back to David is, well, David, what do you want to do? If you are going to do children's and babies clothing, then an 8.5 by 11 printer is going to be great. If you're going to be doing anything above a large shirt, you need to look for printers that are 11 by 17 or that can do that size. because just take a sheet of paper, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and just put it up on an extra large or double XL and triple XL shirt. It looks like a postage stamp. So I always come back to people and remind them that that's what you really have to think about, is not so much what's the best laser printer, what's the best size for what I want to do. Now, all that said, the Creo brand here in the U.S., if you're going to do dark shirts with white images, you're going to have a laser printer that has a white toner cartridge in there, and that's the Creo brand here in the U.S. And there are some other ones that are available, but that's the major one that's supported here. And of course, they do have wonderful 11 by 17 laser printers that are desktop. It's really great. It fits on a desktop. A little pricey to get started, but on the other hand, if you can start generating 10 to 20 shirts a week, pay for itself really, really quickly. So don't think so much, again, think about what you want to do. You're going to do dark shirts, automatically you got to look at a laser printer. You can use one and use our opaques if you don't mind doing the trimming, which with a Creo or a Cricut you can do. So that might be the best way to get started if you can't afford to jump into the Creos first off. But really think about getting a printer of the right size. Ann's going to really start looking at once we're going to start looking at maybe doing some 8.5 by 14 laser printer papers, and definitely on the inkjet side, that would allow you to get an extra 3 inches of width on an image, which kind of puts you into you're getting in the XL a little bit bigger. The issue is a lot of those 8.5 by 11 printers are home office printers or small office printers, and their fuser units aren't designed to hold heat up that long, because all these papers have multiple coatings on them. And what that does is it's lowering the fuser temperature. So if you have a full, let's say 8.5 by 14 image, and it happens sometimes with 11 by 17, if you have a full color image, what happens is that fuser is trying to stay at a certain temperature to melt the toner. And the coatings on the paper are acting as a heat sink. So what happens over especially multiple images, probably fine for one image, but if you do 2, 3, 4, 5, then what's occurring is you're not giving that laser printer enough time to get back up to temperature. So what we recommend in general is always use the bypass tray of whatever printer you're using. So make sure your printer has a way to get the paper straight through the printer, and not use the feed tray that's underneath like you would if you were using plain paper. That does 2 things. Number one, it allows the straightest path. You've got a heavily coated paper, and to give it a tortured path through that laser printer, you're just asking for problems when curl. And then secondly, use really small, and to use a printing term, lifts was what they would say. In other words, just a couple of sheets at a time. And even though you might think that's slowing you down, it's really not, as long as you're able to be attentive to that. Put 2 or 3 sheets in, print, even give the printer a few minutes to rest. You can't press them that fast. Put a few more in, give that printer the best opportunity to continue to make sure that the fuser unit goes up. But that's the challenge on 8.5 by 11. So I hope that helps. It kind of gives you an idea that the toners for the most part are all about the same, and all the major brands are there. It's really finding a laser printer that's going to be the size that you need for what you want to do. And then again, if you're going to do, and which most people want to do, they want to do white on dark shirts. It either needs to be, it can be a 2-step transfer process, or you can use products like our Laser One Opaque and a Cricut or Silhouette cutter and do it that way.
So also, David, if you want some more information, you can email ttpphh@condi.com. That email goes to Doug, and Doug can give you all kinds of information on what kind of laser printers or inkjet printers he well, any kind of printer that he recommends. So TTPPHH, as in T-shirt transfer paper power half hour. TTPPHH at Condi.com. I'll drop that in the chat real quick.
Probably the biggest piece of advice I can have is contact Condi. Doug DeWitt and the whole team there, including Sprite, are so knowledgeable on our products and garment decoration. You have the best of the best, not only in this country, but some of the best, if not the best in the world. So you have incredible resources. And I'm not just saying that because they're here. I say that all the time anyway, because they really are incredible resources. They've done thousands of hours of YouTube videos, but they've even spent more time. Doug doesn't have any hair because he's pulled it all out working to figure out how to use heat transfer paper over the years. So, but he's really knowledgeable. He's patient like he shouldn't be, but he really is knowledgeable. And when we know when he calls us, he's going, I've got something I've never seen before. Okay, we'll look at it. But you really do have an incredible resource of Condi and the whole team there. And I'm just not saying that because we're doing it. I'd tell you that if we were just talking on the phone.
Well, our time is up, but I do have a surprise. So Doug, speak of the devil, brought me the 11x17 Jet Pro Soft Stretch, which I am going to give away. And so Lynn Arnold, congratulations. You have won this 100-sheet pack of 11x17 Jet Pro Soft Stretch. So please, Lynn, email me, swood@condi.com. That's SWOOD @condi.com. And I will send this to you. So Charlie, Ann, thank you guys so very much. Everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.